The most powerful leadership tool you have is your own personal example. John Wooden said that once. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Moving Forward Leadership Podcast, episode 35. 35 leadership lessons from a 35-year-old. Hey everybody, it's your host and founder, Scott McCarthy, and welcome to the Moving Forward Leadership Podcast, where it's all about making you a better leader. And today, I have a different yet special episode. So this is episode 35 of Moving Forward Leadership Podcast. And this year, I've turned 35 years old. So I won't go out and say I thought of this idea right away. No, I got this idea from a gentleman named Pat Flynn over at the Smart Passive Income podcast. And I thought it was a great idea to repurpose it for the Moving Forward Leadership podcast. So Pat, like I, turned 35 this year, and he did a very similar podcast. So I said, hey, that's a great idea. So here I am. Today, you're going to listen to a Facebook Live video, which I did in the Moving Forward Leadership Mastermind. And you're going to listen to 35 leadership lessons that I basically reflected upon over the span of a few weeks. Actually, I took time to really reflect on this over the span of a few weeks, and you'll hear me talk about them. It really was a good exercise for me to think about, over basically almost 24 years now, 24 years of leadership experience that I have under my belt, and think about it and think about the lessons I've learned in this time. So before we dive into the show, I just wanted to quickly talk about the resources that we have available to you within the Moving Forward Leadership realm. And I won't go into the details and the nuts and bolts of them all, but I'll just quickly tell you that in every single show notes post that is out there for every single episode, you'll find all the different resources available to you for the Moving Forward Leadership. All my social media, the ebook, the mastermind, YouTube, and so on and so forth. So if you just go to movingforwardleadership.com/35, that'll take you directly to the show notes. And you just scroll down and you'll see the Moving Forward Leadership resources there. And, take time and I explain every single one of them there. And they're there for you. And they're free to help you in your leadership journey and help me in this journey to make you a better leader. Because that's, at the end of the day, that's my goal. My goal is simply take my 24 years of leadership experience and bring them to the forefront for you so that you can become a better leader today. Okay? So sit back, relax, and listen to me talk about 35 different leadership lessons which I've learned over my time as being a leader and a follower. Hey everybody, hope you guys are doing well. Here I am, live video. It's been a long time since I've done one of these, but I've been waiting to do this one for a while now. And this one is going to be something special because I'm actually going to turn this into a podcast episode. But because you're in the Moving Forward Leadership Mastermind, you're getting it first. So today's video, 35 leadership lessons from a 35-year-old. That's right, I got 35 lessons that I have learned over my time that I've sat down, reflected upon, and wrote down. And I'm going to give them to you right here tonight now. So first off, say this is not was not my initial thought or wasn't my initial idea. I kind of stole this from Pat Flynn over at smartpassiveincome.com. So Pat, if you're listening to this episode or you're watching this video, kudos to you. You gave me this idea. So 35 lessons from a 35-year-old because I turned 35 this year. All right, lesson number 1. Don't judge by age, okay? I've talked about this. I'm still a young guy. I might be 35 years old, but I'm still a young guy in this leadership game, especially if you look at all the other leadership experts out there, like John Maxwell, and, he's up in his 60s and 70s, and there's a ton more out there like that. I started my leadership journey back when I was a teenager, and I was helping lead, other teenagers at that time. And I was the first platoon commander with like 80 odd guys under my command when I was 24. So you can't judge it by age. You got to judge it by capability and potential. Lesson number 2, the top doesn't have to be lonely. Colin, oh God, losing his name now. Anyway, out of the U.S., his famous quote was, "The top is the loneliest spot." And what he's saying is that because you're a leader of an organization, you are the one that has to make the decisions, which is true. But if you surround yourself with great people, great advisors, the top doesn't feel so lonely, right? It all suddenly, feels like an inviting place. It doesn't feel so bad when the rough times come. But at the end of the day, you are still a leader. You still have to be the one making those decisions. So keep that in mind. But it doesn't have to be lonely if you bring in the right people to help you along through the journey. Number 3, accountability leads to increased morale. It may seem a bit of an oxymoron, but it's so true. If you lack accountability in your organization, what's going to happen is people are going to get upset. But once you start adding and ensuring accountability is held within the organization and people who aren't doing what they should be doing are held accountable, then all of a sudden morale goes right up. So keep that in mind. Number 4, make professional development a priority. You always have to be learning. The day that you and your people stop learning is the day that you guys become useless to your organizations. And I've said this a number of times throughout the podcast episodes up till now. So keep developing, keep learning. And if you're listening to this podcast, congratulations, you're doing it. Number 5, delegation is a super tool. And I've talked about this a number of times on the podcast as well. But the more you delegate, the more you're able to push out your duties, your responsibilities down lower. That enables your organization to keep running. And in turn, you go ahead and develop your people below you to basically turn around and do your job for you one day. Then all of a sudden, your organization gets exponentially more powerful in ability to do business. Lesson number 6, get away from your freaking desk. It's easy for us as leaders to get into your work in the morning, walk in, straight away log into your computer, check your calendar, check your email, and then start pounding. But you know what? You got to get away from your desk. Put it on your calendar. That's about how I do it. I put on my calendar every week, find the best time to do it, and I get out and I walk around. And even every morning, in fact, I try to spend the first 30 minutes of my day not at my desk, but talking to my people. Go out, talk to them, see how they're doing. Not necessarily talk shop, but talk other things as well. Don't necessarily always have to talk work. Get to know them on an individual basis by getting away from your desk. Lesson number 7 for me, trust immediately. Yep. You have to trust your people. They're there. They're doing things on your behalf. So you have to trust them immediately. Don't be one of those people that, it's hard to earn my trust. No, allow them to prove to you that there's reasons why you're trusting them immediately. If they turn around and do something, then loses your trust, then that's a different story. But trust immediately so that you can enable them to do what they need to do on your behalf. All right, lesson number 8, dream big. You heard it from John Conrad way back on episode 13 or 14, I believe it was. And he said it himself, to dream big. As a leader, you have to have the vision. You have to have the dream of what your organization should be down in the future. So think about it. Dream big. Don't be scared. Only people who say, no, we can't do that are the ones who are just sitting by the wayside, just taking the easy road. That's not your job. Your job as leaders, keep pushing your organization and make it better. Lesson number 9, the status quo is never an option, okay? The world is changing every freaking day, okay? It's kind of like, for all the parents out there, when you first get your newborn, you're like, hey, cool. Oh, this is new. Oh, we got this figured out. And guess what? the kid turns around, changes the game on you, and suddenly starts doing something that you weren't expecting. That is exactly the world we live in today. Status quo is not an option. You have to keep moving forward. You have to keep evolving as an organization. And that means you as a leader, you have to be the one doing that. And you have to be evolving yourself. Leading into that is number 10, embracing change, right? Because the status quo is not an option, because the world is ever evolving, you have to embrace change. You have to go looking for ways that you can do better, look for ways that you can improve your organization, your people, yourself, and embrace those changes so that you can make yourself, your people, and or your organization better. Lesson number 11, love your people. And I don't mean actually love them like your spouse or whatever, your boyfriend or girlfriend, but actually, be considerate of their welfare, their well-being. Ask them how they're doing. Check up on them. Think about them on Blue Monday. That's like supposedly the most depressing day of the year in January. Keep an eye on them. If they're going through rough times, talk to them about it. Love your people so that in turn, you're taking care of them. They'll in turn take care of you at the end of the day. Lesson number 12, be the calming force. And what I mean by that is that you have to be the calming force during any time of panic, any time where there's a crisis situation going on, okay? You have to be the calming force because you can't afford your organization to be basically run through the ground due to whatever is going on. No, you have to be the calming force so that people can actually think straight, see the way through the issue, and then in turn get to the end result that you need and want. Communication is the end all be all. And that's so true for relationships. You talk to people whose relationships with their spouse fell apart. What was the number one reason that this relationship fell apart? Communication. You hear it all the time. And that is the end all be all for organizations as well. So make sure that you are communicating and that your subordinate leaders are communicating with their people as well. Because if not, things are going to go sideways. Lesson number 14, get or keep fit. I had my personal coach on, I believe episode 29 it was, Josiah Novak, and we talked about how to be fit or how to get in shape, right? Fit leaders generally can take higher levels of stress, can think clearer during times of crises and so on. So getting fit and keeping fit definitely helps you as a leader. And you know what? It's a great stress relief. You're having a bad day, you go out there, you do whatever it is, pump some iron, do some yoga. It doesn't matter. I don't care what you do to be in shape and be fit, but whatever it is, it's going to help you. Okay. Lesson number 15, take breaks. And this kind of goes twofold, right? You can take breaks throughout the day. I usually try to get away from whatever I'm doing once an hour, every 50 minutes or so. But as well, you need to take vacations. And then you go back to my previous leadership lesson about delegation being a super tool. Well, when you delegate to your people, you're able to actually take those breaks, get away. Because when you get away, you clear your head, and then all of a sudden, problems come clearer when you get back to work. And the solutions to those come easier. Mm-hmm. Lesson number 16, build close relationships. The more closer relationships you have, the easier it is because you can go ahead and leverage those relationships as you need them. And I talked about that with Brent Kelly when we were talking about influencing, okay? People help you get through the tough times or get what you need done. So building close relationships will be able to maximize that. Lesson number 17, failures are your fault. Okay, and this is kind of the way I look at leadership. Failures are your fault. When your organization fails, it's because you failed to do something. Either you didn't properly train your people, either you didn't properly give them the resources, or you didn't foresee what was going to happen. End of the day, failures are your fault. So take that to heart and make sure you don't fail. Now, the flip side of that coin is, in lesson 18, is that successes are because of your people. Right? Because they're the ones out there doing the business day to day, down at the ground level to make sure whatever it is that you want done gets done. Okay? They're the reason why your organization is successful at the end of the day. So make sure you go ahead and thank them for that. Leadership lesson number 19, focus on what you can change. I had a big discussion with my people months ago about this, and people were getting stressed out about issues that, we can't change. They couldn't change. I told them blatantly, I said, if you want me to fix this for you, I'll have to quit the military and run for political office to become the next Prime Minister of Canada, because that's what's going to take. So focus on the issues of which you can change as a leader, and the other things, sometimes it may be important. You push that up, but that's that is now your boss's problem. Push it up, but focus on what you can change within your organization. Leadership lesson number 20, make yourself a priority. And I know that may sound a bit oxymoronish, but think about it. When you're in an airplane ready to take off, and they tell you to, in event of emergency, and the whole oxygen mask thing comes down, they say, you put your mask on first before helping others. That's because you're making yourself a priority, because if you become incapacitated, you can't help anybody else. So it's so easy for us as leaders to get completely absorbed in our organizations, our work, our people, making sure they're good to go, that we completely forget about ourselves and taking care of ourselves. So make sure you make yourself a priority and take care of yourself. Lesson number 21, recognize the everyday. And I talked about this long ago. I think it was like episode 4 or something during the Christmas special. And one of the things I like to do at Christmas time is collect stats, the everyday stats of our everyday business, and then compile it. And then you actually see what you've achieved throughout a year, right? And it's pretty impressive if you think about it. So recognize the everyday, because once you compile all that together, all of a sudden the everyday doesn't seem just so mundane. It actually becomes pretty extraordinary once you compile all that and recognize it. Lesson number 22, 2/3 of the way through. Be vulnerable, talk about your fears, talk about your weaknesses to your people. Show them that you're not invincible, you're not a Superman or Superwoman. You actually are vulnerable. And you heard George Penyak say that in his episode when he sat down with his team. He's vulnerable to kind of open up and allow people to connect with him. And then all of a sudden, once you connect with your people, then you'll have a hell lot easier time leading them and getting them to do what you need them to do. Lesson number 23, question down. So what I mean by that is, don't provide the answers all the time. Ask questions. I always say, I ask questions. I don't give answers, I ask questions. So that my people can turn around and instead of me giving them the answer, they develop the answer. And then in turn, that could be a better answer than what I would have. But if I gave them the answer straight out of the gate, then they would just do what I told them to do, or said what is the best way to do it. So I'm always questioning down, all right? But on the other side of that coin is lesson number 24, answer up. So if you have something going on, you have to report to your supervisor, there's a problem or something, show up with the solution already. You may not have all the resources to do so or the authorities to do so, but if at least you showed up with the solution, the problem and the solution, then your supervisor is going to know that you've actually thought this problem through. And even more so, if you do have all those resources, just go ahead and do it, right? Just get her done. Lesson number 25, good leaders retain great people. And if you listen to my episode with Heather Younger, you would have heard all about this. People don't quit jobs because they hate the job. People quit jobs because they hate their boss, and it's a proven fact. So great leaders retain great people. People will stay within their organization for less pay, less benefits, if their supervisor is an outstanding leader. Proven fact with statistics. Feel free to go back and listen to that episode with Heather, and we talk all about that. So keep that in mind. Number 26, we're getting there. Not everyone will be happy. You as a leader cannot make every single person with your organization happy. It's impossible, especially when you get into large organizations like 25 to 50 people plus. Just not going to happen. Yeah, you'll be able to achieve most of it, but end of the day, you have to do what's best for the organization as a whole, the people, and then yourself. Okay? Not all the time will everybody will be happy with those decisions, but that is what you can do. That's all you can do. Lesson number 27, plan to quit. One day you will leave your organization. You will leave that job you were in. So if you just don't plan that exit strategy, just like a good business, every good business has an exit plan, where it's going to be sold, whether it's going to be incorporated, so hand it down through a family member, whatever. End of the day, you have to have that same plan. You have to plan to exit, and you have to plan some kind of succession for yourself. Because if you don't, then all those years of what you've spent working hard at will just go down the drain. Just keep that in mind. Plan to quit. Leadership lesson number 28. Read more. Spend 30 minutes to an hour every day reading. And again, it goes back to professional development and taking care of yourself. But read more. As leaders, we should be reading every day. And I have a goal right now of 12 books through the year. I'm pretty sure I'll surpass that goal pretty easily, because tonight I'm going to crack book number 4 of the year, and we're less than 2 months through. So I'm about double the pace right now. So I'm kind of on pace for about 24 books for this year. But yeah, read more. Leadership lesson 29. Explain your decisions. Too often, leaders just make decisions and no one knows why. No one has any idea why they made that decision. Okay? Explain them. Take time to explain your decisions to your people so they have an understanding where your headspace is, how your thought process goes, and why you are making the decision that you made. Okay? In turn, that's going to allow them to make similar decisions, understand the why behind the decision you made. So if something else pops up, they don't necessarily have to bother you, because they understand what your intent is. They understand why you're going the way that you're going, or taking the organization the way you're taking it. So explain your decisions. Lesson number 30, support your peers and support your boss. If you're in a large-scale organization, much like myself, you're going to have peers, you're going to have boss. If and you're a small one, maybe not so. But anyway, support anybody, okay? When other people, your peers or your boss have a lot on your plate, don't be shy to walk in and say, what can I do to help? Because one day when you are that person, they're going to remember that, and they're going to turn around and ask you the exact same question. So support them. We're all into this together in your organization. You shouldn't be looking at making myself better by by the other person failing, okay? Whether that's your peer or your boss. No, you look better as a team player when you're the one putting your neck out to support someone else. Lesson number 31. Recognize when to pick up tasks. And this kind of goes back to supporting your boss and your peers, but as well it goes a little bit beyond that. It also goes into knowing your strengths and weaknesses. When there's tasks that are going on, you're sitting in a meeting and tasks are being pushed out, and you realize that is your strength and not no one else's, and sitting there, be the first one to go ahead and grab it, right? And say, no, I'll pick that up because I'm the person with the skill sets to get that job done. So recognize when to pick up tasks. Leadership lesson number 32. Respect is guaranteed, okay? You have to give respect to everybody. Don't be one of those people that say, I take my respect. Much like along the lines of trust, right? But respect has to be guaranteed. Regardless of how much you may despise somebody, you still have to publicly respect them. Because in turn, if you don't, you're just going to hurt your credibility as a leader. And your credibility is what's the cornerstone of your leadership. Once you lose your credibility, no one's going to follow you. So make sure you give respect to everybody and anybody, okay? Number 34, trust but verify. So we talked about that earlier, right? when we talked about how to get, trust immediately and stuff like this. Sorry, this is number 33. Trust but verify. But again, make sure that when you trust somebody, you're verifying what they are actually doing. Okay, verifying that. Take time to verify that the tasks that you've given them or the abilities that you've the freedoms that you've given them are actually being used properly. So verify. Leadership lesson number 34. Okay, know your strengths and weaknesses, and we've heard all about this before, and I kind of talked about it a couple lessons ago. But make sure that you know your strengths and weaknesses so that you know how you can employ yourself. But also, then you start realizing what others you need on your team, and you can start looking for those. To surround yourself with people whose strengths are your weaknesses. All right, will in turn make your team that much stronger. So make sure you know your strengths and weaknesses for the betterment of organization. And finally, the last leadership lesson, 35 leadership lessons from the 35-year-old, is that leadership's for everybody. And I talk about this, and this is the reason why for the podcast and the reason for the website, and basically the reason why I'm doing everything I'm doing, is that leadership's for everyone. It doesn't matter who you are. You could be leading large corporation. You could be a nonprofit. You could be a small business. You could be a parent at home. You could be, the coach for your son's little league team. It doesn't matter. Leadership's for everyone. Okay, and a quick story about that was that when I was doing a job, we had a soldier who was starting off in her career on a very troublesome note. She was working her way out of basically being punted out of the military, and I took her in our cell, and we started molding her and saying, listen, this is what you need to do to make yourself better. And one of the things I kind of pounded in her head was that leadership's for everyone. And once she started understanding this, once she realized that even though she was the lowest rank in the whole Canadian Armed Forces, no hook, untrained private, she needed to be a leader. She needed to start leading herself first. And we started seeing her turn around. And she actually made through her basic level of training without getting punted out. So that's the whole mantra of leadership is for everyone. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this list. They're in no particular order. All right. It's not from most important to least important or vice versa. It was basically how they kind of spewed out of my head as I was thinking about these 35 different leadership lessons throughout my 20-odd years of being in this game. So I hope you enjoyed this list. I am going to turn this into episode 35 of the Moving Forward Leadership Podcast, which will go this coming week, actually, in just a few days. So you can feel free to, hit not bother with download that one, or download and listen to it anyway if you want to take some notes. But keep these 35 lessons in mind. And if you got any other lessons that you've come across in your experience, feel free to comment below or shoot me an email. All right. Remember, everybody, keep pushing, keep trying, keep moving forward. Take care now.